Hi. Today we're at talking table top five. Still haven't gotten it yet.
We'll get there.
As always, my name is Danny, and this is,
Trevor.
and you'll recognize us from the other videos of our other top fives. Today we're talking about deck building games. Now we want to clarify something real quick. In our terms of deck building, that is where you normally start off generally with the same cards or a small deck of cards, and you're building the deck as you're playing the game. I know, like Magic the Gathering used to be known as a deck building game, but now we consider it a pre-constructed
Yeah.
deck game because you make your deck and that's not part of the
The
game.
deck building is not part of the mechanics of
Yeah.
the game. People
Right.
do that a lot, but that's more the meta.
Right.
This is the game's mechanics is actually you building a deck as you play the game, as the name would imply.
Exactly. So I'm gonna start it off. My number five is Ascension. Now, what you have with Ascension, it's a fantasy themed game where you are recruiting heroes, or you are recruiting or different ways to fight off monsters. If you fight off a monster, you get a one-time reward, which is normally a pretty good reward of victory points or abilities. And if you get heroes, you get to add them to your deck. So as you're shuffling through, you get to play these cards for their abilities every time you get it. Now, so of course, everything you get goes to your discard. You run out of draw pile, you reshuffle your discard. So you're going to be shuffling a lot. But in this game, it works really well because the timer is the victory points. So once a certain number of tokens are taken, the game is over. You count those tokens, plus any bonuses you might have, plus any cards that are worth points at the end. Most points wins. And it works really well. It plays like 30 minutes, maybe.
Yeah.
But it's so good. Hundreds of expansions. I haven't played
Yep.
them all yet, but there's also an app for it that you can play. And I hear it's pretty good.
Nice.
Cool.
My number five is from Upper Deck. Not a lot of people know about this one. Bring Out Your Dead. It is. They've called it their attempt at a Euro. It's not really a Euro, guys. Still a good game. A whole lot of fun. Comes with little wooden coffins, and you're essentially trying to get better cards to bury your family. Why I consider it a deck builder is because you have the treasure cards and the fate cards in a face-up tableau that are essentially the cards that you are, more often than not, you're throwing these caskets into mass graves because you want more of these cards. So it's like, chucking the bodies of your family members into a mass grave to lead you into a better station in life. And then you use those to then bid for positioning on the next cart that's going through the graveyard. So it takes a very dark comedy approach, a la like a Death to Smoochie or something like that. Get Shorty, if you've ever seen
Weekend
any
at
of those.
Bernie's.
Yeah, Weekend at Bernie's.
Yeah.
Yeah. So takes a fun, kind of dark humor approach to deck building games.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if I'd call it a deck building. I get that, but
There is a face-up tableau. You are building your deck of cards. I went by verbal definition.
wouldn't it be building your hand of cards because you always have them available? I guess you reuse some.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. My number four.
Your deck is just also your hand.
My number four is an actual deck building game. It is called Star Realms. It's basically the sci-fi version of Ascension. It plays very similar, except in Star Realms, the difference is you're not fighting monsters on the table. You're fighting your opponents. It's a two-player game. You're bringing them down from 50 life, which actually goes really fast. It plays quick. It comes in a small box, 120 some cards, I think, is all it has, including like the life points.
But then there's
And-
like 1,000 expansions.
There's not that many on that. Ascension there is, but Star Realms is like the blister packs
Yeah.
of like 10 to 15 cards. There's about 5 of those right now that's available. So you could double the size of the deck from here to there. And then that's it. But what's cool about Star Realms, what set it above Ascension for me, is there's 4 different factions that play pretty differently. And if you play 2 of the same cards, a lot of times you can get extra combos by playing that. So that kind of leads people to go towards certain factions. Like I might want to play the green faction, which is like I think the aliens, I forget what they're called, or the blobs or something along those
The
lines.
Zorg.
Yeah, right. And and the way that they work off of each other just really starts damaging more people because you're comboing. So it's really cool how that works. I think like yellow, you start drawing a lot more
Yeah.
cards and manipulating your deck better. So it
Believe
works
it's
really
also
well.
coming up on this season of Tabletop.
I
I don't
believe it.
remember.
I don't know.
But I know there
We'll find
was
out.
a big push for that one in 2016 for
Yeah.
International Tabletop Day. So
Yeah. Also
Star
an
Realms-
app as
yeah,
well.
an
Yeah.
app. I know people hold tournaments to it
Oh yeah.
at conventions and
Mm-hmm.
things. Where like it's getting huge. Where you'll have like your poker tournament and a Star Realms tournament.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Why
this
not?
game's apparently good enough that they're like, nah, this is better than poker.
Yeah. No, it's great.
All
It's
right.
a better strategy, less random than poker.
My
What's
number
your
four is a game by I believe it's Counter Clockwork Games. It's more of an indie company. Um, I picked it up at the Gamma Trade Show in 2016. It is a game called The Shadow over Westminster. It is a really good game. That unfortunately, its one downside was their editor for the rulebook should have been fired. Whoever designed the rulebook did, yeah. I don't think anyone did design it. It's got a great lot of theme because essentially you're playing
Hey, we
as
found a rule book.
yeah.
That'll work.
Throw it in a box.
Throw it in a box.
No, so it is a cooperative game in which you are trying to stop a cataclysm. Each of you is some sort of investigator, whether like a Knights Templar or a detective, or I think one of you is secretly an alien. And there's these different like riots and things that will happen in town that you have to go quell. Whenever you do quell these, you get the card that was the recent insurgents, and it has a number of trophy points, which you then use those trophy point cards to help advance you along in the game's progression to ultimately reveal what the final cataclysm is, so that you know what you have to actually do to beat the game. And there is a hidden betrayer mechanic in it, as one of the players could potentially be evil. And it is essentially a deck building game. You go to certain areas to find better investigation cards, better treasure cards. Each of the card types have different backs, which is really cool because it's one of the first deck builders that I've ever played in which the card backs being different matters because it helps you chain your next turn.
Yeah, that's
Where you
odd.
see like, oh, I have an investigation card coming up next turn. I don't have a whole lot of investigation this turn, so I can save this one in my little sideboard because you get to save one card for the next hand. So I'm going to sideboard this one and then do this with the rest of my stuff, and then it gets discarded, and then when your turn comes back around, you get to take that card and the next investigation card. So it lets you kind of set up a chain in there. The problem is that in the rule book, when it comes to quelling the insurgents, they don't say whether the trophy cards go in your discard pile to be shuffled into your deck, or if they sit off in a separate area for you to then use at any time. So kind of makes a huge difference because it's determinant upon whether or not, next turn I'm going to go here and I'm going to spend my trophies to advance this how far we need to go, and there we go. Or it's in my discard pile, I have to wait, I have to shuffle through and hope that I get those two cards close enough together that I can go to the end to do that. Literally, the paragraph cuts off halfway through. But other than that, great graphic design, a whole lot of fun to play. It is a great cooperative game. Wish there was an update to that. So
Maybe they'll make
Shadow over Westminster.
They probably will update like a new version of the rules online.
I hope so.
assume. Hopefully they have that support. But my next one is a pretty unknown one from AEG. It's called Valley of the Kings, and it is an Egyptian themed deck builder. Where what's great about this deck builder, it works just like any other deck builder, except every card could be worth your currency. Every card has an ability, and every card is worth a certain number of points if you entomb it. So on your turn, you can use any number of cards to get more currency or to buy other cards. And then you can use other ones for their abilities. And then finally, you can entomb up to one card on your turn.
Yeah.
Unless abilities say otherwise. So it's really cool, this give and take. It's like, well, this card is really good because I want to use its ability, but but it's going to be worth a lot of points to me later on. So if I put it in 2 minutes, it's going to be gone from my deck.
Yeah.
How do I get rid of it in a time that's opportunity to me? And so they also have a little pyramid of a 3, 2, and a 1 style cards, and you can only buy from the bottom of the row. So when you buy it, it just kind of
And
cascades
then
down.
the pyramid
So-
crumbles.
Yeah, the pyramid
essentially.
crumbles. And so as you're buying these cards, you can kind of set up your opponents to get certain cards that they might not need. And so that's a cool little add-on to it. It works really well. The theme is there. It's just super fun. I enjoy it every time I get to play it. But yeah, that's Valley of the Kings by AEG.
My number 3 is a game by Action Phase Games, technically indie boards and cards now, called Ninja Camp. It's sort of a little bit abstract strategy game meets deck building game. Again, technically deck building, even though your deck is entirely in your hand.
Of 2 cards.
Well, no, because you can get more than that. Potentially. But
You have to play a card to replace it. You have
but then
2
you can
cards,
get
you
more.
play 1. Well, yeah, you get
Don't judge me.
different cards.
So,
Well, if your deck is only 2 cards big, that's your choice.
hey, it's
But-
not about the size of your deck, it's the strategy you use it.
Oh my goodness.
Okay. So, you do have what they've now coined as ninjeeples. And essentially you are moving them around this grid, trying to get good placements to get more cards into your hand, or your deck, as it were, allowing you to do better things and essentially try to force the players into a position where they don't have any more moves available, at which point then everyone totals up out of the cards they have played, and then you determine who wins.
Cool. I mean, I love the game. I really do.
Plus, you get to be ninja animals, like a kitten and a polar bear.
I mean, sure, it's more of a deck builder than bring out your deck. That doesn't make it a deck builder.
I'm getting better, okay?
Yeah.
I promise you.
Did you
the
rank
next
your
two
top 5?
are...
No.
Well, no, the next one, technically, kind of, sort of.
It's a tableau game.
Yeah,
That's a tableau builder.
yeah.
There's no deck there.
But
It's a great game.
Yeah, so
So we'll get there.
you're number 2.
Yeah, my number 2 is a game called Candidate Land. Now, he's smirking and I know why. I'll explain later on. But the idea of the game, it's a deck builder. It is an actual deck building game where your deck is your campaign.
Unlike half of my list.
Like half of your list, so at least I got that much. No, in this game, you are running a political campaign. You are sending your candidate around the country, manipulating the system, spreading around your influence, slandering your opponents, to the point where you are essentially buying states for their electoral votes. It's of course themed in
This is
America.
a little too real.
It got uncomfortable a little bit playing after election times, but I feel like there's times where it comes in where it's really good. And what's great is the expansions on this game are really fun because there's the Slander expansion, there's the 3 and 4 player expansion, which add a green and a yellow character, for a green party and whatnot.
Staying in the colors.
Yeah, it's just the
Independent
colors.
green
You
parties.
don't have to specify what party it is. But then
Slander, which is essentially like negative.
yeah, it's
cards.
basically diluted.
They're
your
the
campaign.
garbage cards that get added that you want to get rid of.
Yeah, exactly. So when you're slandering your opponent, they're getting all these garbage cards that'll just slow them down, as Slander does. And then the newest expansion that hasn't even come out yet, that's being worked on, is the President's expansion. All 45 presidents will have their own character ability. So you have one at the beginning of the game, and they're all supposed to be themed after the presidents. So do you want to explain why you're smirking at this game?
Because Danny designed Candidate Land,
So-
I figured that this actually, out of sheer hubris, he would not have put it in his list.
I had considered that, and so I'll be honest. I really do truly believe that I have had more fun playing this than other deck builders, and I feel it finally brings a theme to deck building. Now, granted, I'm biased. There's one that exists, but I really do think that this stands on its own in terms of deck builders. It works just as fluidly. it builds off of it, and it's thematic for once, which is rare amongst deck building.
Every
games,
time
so.
I've seen it demoed amongst players, they essentially all have a really fun time playing it. It did get demoed once with a certain character power coming into play. It's not a current president, but it was 3 presidents ago. Wow, 3 presidents ago. My personal favorite, Bill Clinton, is in the game. And I'll tell you what right now. If you're not playing Candidate Land, then you haven't lived.
Shining endorsement on that game, wasn't it? The entire demo of the game was him doing that demo or doing that voice, just trying to make as many euphemisms as he could.
Yep.
Yeah, it was really fun. And that's
I play a whole new meta game in Candidate Land.
Oh yeah, it's good stuff. See, it brings out the theme.
Yeah.
Whether you want it to or not. So like, for example, like all of the character abilities have that ability. So like William Henry Harrison, he died in a month. So at the beginning of the game, you take 3 turns as a head start, and then you discard the card
for the rest of the game.
Yeah, you discard the card. He's gone. That's all he lasts.
So
so thematic.
Fun game. It's up on Game Crafter.
The Game Crafter.
If you want to check it out, you can go there, find it. The president's names might be similar to, but legally distinct from, because I'm sure likeness.
We're figuring that out.
Yeah. So it is. That one's not available, but all the others are. So you should go check those out.
As of the filming of this video.
So my number 2 is I'm being told, what's that, Jim? Also not a deck builder.
Who knew?
You can tell how bad I am at actually picking categories. So I like to think of it as a deck builder because you start with nothing, and now we're up in the big leagues. See, it's our turn at bat, because moving on up, Machikoro. So you essentially start with, I think, what is it, 2 cards? You start with a bakery and...
Yeah, and a bakery and a wheat field.
Yes. So...
in your tableau.
Yes, in your tableau, which is kind of like a deck.
Except you never
but
shuffle
it's
it.
face up.
And you always have it available.
Yeah.
Which is not a deck.
Correct.
A deck is a stack of
But
cards.
it's also yours is different from the other players, and you build it by drafting out of by building it out of a tableau of cards.
It is a drafting game.
Fair enough. It is also partially drafting as much deck building.
Sure.
So no, it is really fun. I considered it a deck building because essentially everyone starts with the same 2 cards. Everyone starts with the same amount of money going into it. And everyone essentially starts with the same advantages. Then everyone picks a different strategy of what future buildings they're going with that go into their city so that they can ultimately try to win. But Machikoro IDW Games fits in a deck box, so it's highly mobile. Even though the box is this big,
standard size.
fits in here. So it takes up about as much space as Star Realms. But yeah.
Yeah, probably less cards.
If you want the best non-deck building deck builder, Machikoro. There you go.
And so my number 1 is the granddaddy of all deck builders. It's the game that invented deck building as a game, Dominion. No theme. That's a common theme amongst my list. Is I don't care if there's theme in the game. This game is entirely
except for Candidate Land.
Candidate Land does matter because it needs theme, and it has it in abundance. Go ahead and give the impression.
I'm telling you right now, if you want a game that's better than Dominion, you should check out Candidate Land.
So, Dominion, you start off with just a small little estate. You're basically trying to build the best Dominion. It invented... and that's what it is. It invented the deck building mechanisms, and they have come out with more than 10 expansions with like 20-some cards each expansion.
And that's not including little promos here and there that they throw out at like all of their conventions.
Exactly. There are now thousands and thousands of cards, and more than 100 different cards, or more than like about 500 different cards that you can play from. And so every game you just get some random ones, throw them out there, and play it. We've had hours and almost more fun than any other game.
I think it's one of the few games that you own that like doesn't fit in one container anymore. It's like multiple.
It almost doesn't fit on one shelf now. I still have them all in separate boxes, but it's uncomfortable now. I love it.
And my number one, this one actually is a deck builder,
is.
you guys. What do
That's
you
why
know?
it's number one. It's because it's actually a deck
It's
builder.
because it's the only one that actually is a deck builder.
Oh.
Actually, now that I look at my list, yeah. So it's Legendary, the Legendary series by Upper Deck. Specifically Marvel Legendaries, even more specifically the Heroes set. I do like the Villains one, but it's a little more cutthroat and backstabby. But I like superheroes and I like deck builders, and Marvel Legendary has that. Plus, it's a co-op game, so even if I suck, I can just ride your coattails into the win. So yeah, you get to take guys like this guy and guys like that guy, and you put them on your team, and you are fighting Mastermind while trying to keep the city safe from villains. You're recruiting more heroes into your deck. Spider-Man, Captain America, the list goes on and on. There's, I think, well over 2,000 cards in mine, and that's just for the hero sets, not even the villain ones. Everything from like Secret Wars storyline to Civil War to Noir, Daredevil, or Deadpool, Captain America, X-Men, Fantastic Four. Yeah, tons and tons and tons of expansions. All really good. And then they have different versions. So even if you don't like superheroes, there's
Firefly.
the Legendary Encounters series, which is Firefly, Alien, Predator, and then there's a non-encounters. That one's non-encounters. Yeah. It is just the standard Legendary, which means it does shuffle in with the Marvel one. And so that's Big Trouble in Little China.
Russell?
Yep. You know what Jack Burton says? You need to check out some Marvel Legendary. And while you're at it, you should check out Candidate Land.
So that was our list of the top 10, top 6 deck builders.
Top 5 and top 1.
Yeah, top 5, top 1.
I'm telling you right now, I did not make lists with that woman.
Oh, your mind was a little distracted.
Anyway,
so that was the list of the top 10 deck builders. If you like any of those, by all means, check them out. Take a look at them. This has been Talkin' Tabletop 5. As always, my name is Danny. This is Trevor. Join us next week where we're going to be filming
something else.
We'll see you then.